Oh, goodness. Thank you for coming. And we have somebody virtually. We have Brandy.
Yeah, Brandy is going to be joining us remotely as soon as she's available.
Not available yet.
If the board so pleases, we could allow for her to join us rather than doing this later.
I'll read it. I move that Brandy Polanski's request to attend today's meeting of the JMRL Budget Finance Committee remotely due to a personal matter, specifically work obligations, be approved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
When she comes, she can come right in. Okay, so today we're going to be discussing the JMRL fiscal year 26 budget, equipment budget, which I think everybody probably has a copy of. I think I have several copies, but yeah.
So traditionally what has happened in these meetings is that this body will go through and review the requests as submitted and craft recommendations of the whole board. So this budget or whatever changes we will have into in between now and Monday will get put up onto the handouts for the full board. We're not necessarily going to vote on this in May. It's more part of the overall budget adoption in June, but it gives everybody enough time to live with it that if there are major issues, either the budget committee can come back and work on it or the full board will discuss. So starting on that kind of summary page at the front there, we've got a very solid fund balance in the equipment budget right now, if a little bit high even maybe. This budget request is directly from managers of branches and departments at JMRL, and then some kind of institutional needs that are ongoing every year. Equipment requests, if you'll recall, a big chunk of software was moved into the operating budget for this year, so that's not reflected here. This is a conservative budget, thanks to Jerry Carchidi, who's here joining us today, and his sound fiscal management. Likely some of the costs will come in lower for next year, but we'll see throughout the year how it goes. We also shifted about $43,000 of equipment requests from managers over to a request that will go to the community foundation because they were more project based. So rather than a table or whatnot, it's something to do with a makerspace. There's some 3D printers in there, a makerspace table, a few other things. So the board will see those again when we get into the CACF cycle. But it's just an example of what might be happening in the next few years as we see some of these costs and potentially. If we were to lose the revenue that is projected here, that's currently projected for $156,000 for next year. The board, of course, is talking about fines and fees and the equipment budget, so that number may change depending on what decisions the board makes. Then these future meetings may be about prioritizing needs. You know, right now this is a say yes to everything budget. These are all the requests that came in minus the ones that are going over to the Friends Endowment. It also might mean in the future saying, no, we have to wait on those things until such time as it's going to draw another few years out of that piece of equipment, basically. But having said that, there's nothing in this budget that is frivolous. All these are needs. Some of them are must-have, some of them are nice to have, but all of them help to serve the mission of the library. Shall we?
And where I forget this. Where does the extra money come from? I mean, we have the revenue, the fines and fees.
Yes. Where does the other revenue that's not fines and fees come from? It comes from any money that the library takes in. So it's copies, photocopies and faxes. It's
I mean, the shortfall here is the 267.
That's what the fund balance will be projected a year from now if this budget is as expensive as it is and if we take in the revenue that's projected here.
Okay.
So that's kind of a moving target because the revenue might be lower, or I'm guessing probably some of the expenses will come lower too, but we don't want to guess too much because some costs.
We have a bunch of money.
Yes.
More revenue.
There's a,
expenses.
We'll have less money next year.
there's a shortfall of like 95,000, right? So 94,575.
You mean the math is not correct?
No, I'm saying that there's more expense than revenue.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so,
It's true.
maybe that's not the definition of shortfall, but, there's more expense than revenue. And so even if we just kept going the way that it's going now,
Yeah,
we'd run out at like two.
about 3 years, yeah.
And what is the right context or timing to talk about? Because you had sort of mentioned like the fines and fees if that went away. What is this committee the right context, or is it something we talk about at the board, or around what would be the options for dealing with that?
I think it could start with this committee. Ultimately, it's going to be a full board decision. I think that the discussions that we've had internally on the staff end, and then we've shared some of with the board, it's going to be a variety of sources, basically. There's no one thing that would replace the revenue that comes from fines. But we're going to have to deal with this one way or the other, because if you look at our circulation numbers, the digital circulation this year is going to be even greater than last year, and there's no revenue coming back from that, right? So one way or the other, JMRL is going to have to figure out how to ease back off of relying on these funds. Right now, the Friends of the Library are a significant source of support for that, and probably also using some of state aid moving forward that right now pays entirely for books. Next year, it's going to pay for some salary as well, but perhaps for the budget 27, we would not support salaries in that way with state aid, but instead support the equipment budget.
Right, and so that's what came to my mind, was just that when we talk about prioritization, it wouldn't just be prioritization among these things, it would be prioritization across a variety of different categories of expenses.
And most of that discussion will, our next budgeting opportunity is to work on the fiscal year 27 project. So in the fall, we'll start working on the operation. Right now, we have a healthy balance in the fund budget. We can afford the things that are being asked for. We know that it's not sustainable long-term, even without the fines and fees conversation. You can't outspend the way that we have the last few years, but in the end of the year, the expenses haven't been as high as were projected coming into the beginning of the year.
And so it seems like it would make sense to do some modeling for 27, to help the board make the decision. There's like a little bit of a chicken and egg thing. If the board makes a decision, it'll have to happen. The tough choices will have to happen. But to help the board make the decision, some modeling of what would those choices look like.
And are you talking about in the context of this discussion today about the equipment budget?
No, I mean, we don't need to dwell on it now. I just wanted to know if where that starts, like where because like I said, it sounds like you and Jerry would need to do some modeling and then bring it back either to this committee or to the board for us to understand better the consequences of making the decision.
Yeah, and Jerry's already done some work in projecting, what the impact would be of a fine-free library, but there are a lot of variables moving forward.
So we would basically, I'm just trying to visualize.
Sure.
We would incorporate these expenses, equipment into we would have two budgets. We would incorporate it into the budget. And
I think
at some point, if we don't have a equipment fund anymore,
we would still have some revenues coming in. The things that we just mentioned. There are other sources of income that come in. We sell bags. So there still is room for a separate equipment budget. One of the values of the equipment budget is that because it's not local tax dollars, it's not tied to the carryover thresholds that we have for our operational budget. The operational budget currently, if JMRL is holding more than 5% of the operating budget, we have to return it to the municipalities. The equipment budget is exempt from that because it's money that the organization has brought in. And it's written in the regional agreement that.
okay.
So I don't think we'd be talking about the equipment budget going away. But I think we would be reclassifying what kinds of draws we're making on it.
Yeah.
So for instance, in the last 2 years, we have kind of made this distinction. Project-oriented one-time costs, which in the past we would have called equipment. Now we will ask the CACF to help fund that. And the software that in the past we had called equipment, now we will consider that an operational cost. So it has to come, you have to make decisions about how to classify things. Yes. Yeah.
In context, if you go back maybe over the last 10 years, there have been some years where our budgeted expense has been less than our good revenue, so it's not always this case. So part of the mix too, we talked about evaluating what we expect.
The other concern is rising costs of everything. So Jerry built some room in this budget for unknowns with shipping next year. In the past, we've asked for a certain dollar amount. Now we're gonna budget for more. We might not need it, but we might, depending on where things are coming from or what the international trade scenario looks like at that time. So
Paper.
yeah, right. Paper.
Canada probably, right?
So, but Peter, your point is the same. I think we've talked about this last year as well, is that the board is gonna have to look at some scenarios and we can present those. And I think it will come out naturally as well. Like we'll be preparing this information as part of the overall discussion about fines and fees that the board is gonna be working on in the next few months. But there's always trade-offs because the board is also interested in discussions about salary and the operational budget. So if we're asking for more there, then it's harder to also ask for more equipment from our local jurisdictions. Which just means work. Yeah. That's what we're here for.
We like.
Good.
All right, okay, thank you for that.
Brandy is joining us, so let me promote our two panelists. This is an appropriate point though for these in this discussion for these kind of high level questions and answers. So I want to make sure that this committee feels like they have a grasp on where we are.
I mean, I know we've gone over this, it's once a year, so I can never remember
Yeah.
the nuances of this equipment budget. All right.
So what we will do is review the equipment budget and then at the end discuss, what recommendation this committee would make to the full board. And I will put it up on the screen, but probably better off dealing with the paper in front of you.
And there's not, an entry for all the branches. Did they just, there's nothing from the week. There's nothing else.
Yeah, not every branch made a request. Or, yes, thank you, Jerry points out, or we moved their request to the Charlottesville area community.
Oh, I think we can handle that.
First, I have to find where this saved. Here we go. Okay. So the first category here is regional costs, and most of these are pretty self-explanatory until we get down to the bottom of them. But the copiers, printer leases, this is for all of JMRL. So it's the machines at every branch, and there are both, depending on the location, both public and staff-only machines. Most of them are public, but some staff-only. We have a contract with a local organization, basically, that does the upkeep and provides new ones every few years. That's 37 grand. $10,000 here to cover shipping price increases in assembly. This is basically what if we need this because the global trade scenario is things that cost $10 now cost $20 in 6 months. So we can discuss that amount. It's something that's open for debate. Okay, Jerry, would you care to elaborate on other miscellaneous services?
Yes, I would. I went back a couple of years. This current year, that was a replacement of all the key fobs for the central branch for all the staff that have fobs. So it's a IT related project, but anyway, that's what it's used in fiscal 25 and fiscal 24. which relates to the book lockers, biblioteca is. Book locker.
Yes.
Yes, actually I have the invoice there. So it's could be a variety of things. Those are the two major pieces in the last 2 fiscal years.
So this is for unforeseen, would you say? We don't have something targeted right now for this.
They were foreseen, but that's just where they ended up being charged to, yeah.
Okay.
Fit into a branch per se.
The collection fee contract is what JMRL pays to, I have no idea why this is an equipment fund, pays to the organization that currently is reaching out to our patrons with excessively overdue materials. The staff are interested in doing away with that service, but it's wrapped up in the discussion about fines, fees, or whatnot. Right now, we're paying $4,500 a year. When this service started 15, 20 years ago, they were able to contact folks that JMRL wasn't able to get in touch with, and they were able to notify on a more frequent schedule. Now we have better tools and are already doing these things in-house. So there's some question about whether or not we're getting value out of this $4,500. So right now, it's in the budget for next year. But I think that there's a discussion to be had about whether or not JMRL wants to still be in that business. Other contractual services, Jerry, what do you have to say about that?
That's the annual fee, if you will, that we pay to Library of Virginia for E-rate services.
Great. Credit card fees. Those are the fees to run our credit card services. So all, a lot of things there are also borderline equipment. We didn't move them out because they weren't as clearly software costs, but this is something to, in the future, as we're looking at, gonna pay for what? Some of these may be closer to operational. Any questions? Just jump in as we go through. So the first two central items here are placeholders. We're currently hiring for the position that's in charge of the reference department regionally and the reference department at the central library. Before the current manager left, there were some plans for the reorganization of that space. So this is not the renovation project, and this is just short-term fixes for moving some furniture around, kind of redistributing down there. So this is just a placeholder for that project when the new person
So
comes
it's not
up.
equipment.
Well, it would be like tables, some new tables, probably chairs, potential new computers. It would be equipment, and then it's the miscellaneous equipment at the top is just for unforeseen things at Central in the next year. We've had if the board's meeting at Central on the 19th, if they had been there this week, you would be amazed that there are 3 construction projects happening at the building right now. Jerry's roof fell in last week, literally. There was a crack in the ceiling, put in a work order for it. They came in and looked at it, and the ceiling came down.
Wow.
So we want to make sure that we have some funding for if his desk had been destroyed in the process. But all, these are all points that the committee can weigh in on. After this, we start to get a little bit more specific. These were requests that came in for, we need this particular thing. So the delivery bins are the bins that go on the delivery trucks daily to bring books around. Just need some more of those. You buy them in bulk, it's fairly expensive. Office chairs I believe that's for the circulation department.
Yep.
At the central branch, just 2 more office chairs. A new round table for the NL there. 1 new book truck. You're gonna see book trucks a few times on here, and every year this comes up with this committee, or it says, how come it doesn't say book trucks 10? The requests came from different branches, and they're asking for specific models of things. And if you're interested, find a librarian and ask them about what types of book trucks they like. Well, we want the ones with the slanted, we need a flat bed, we need this, we need that. And it's true, there are different needs and different times. Some of them are for display, some of them are just getting things out there. Okay, request from Crozet for some window frosting, similar to what has gone up in the children's room here at Northside, if you get a chance, just to prevent glare that's coming in on the collection there. Laptop tables, double-sided and single-sided book trucks. Cafe tables, outdoor benches are both for outdoor seating in the front of the library there. Sign holders, I believe, are inside.
Do the cafe tables have chairs to go with it?
I so.
Maybe it's a set.
I'm relying on the request of the manager here. But presumably there's things that are under, we do get requests for equipment as needed throughout the year. And what the administration tells staff basically is if something broke and you need it, we will replace it. So, if Lindsay's chair or if Jerry's desk had fallen in, we would use the equipment budget to replace it. And it would be something that you have to wait till next year to ask for. And smaller dollar amounts under, what was the cutoff we used it to?
At $300.
$300 that we can buy with the equipment budget, we'll just buy. So if they need chairs, buy chairs, rather than saying you need to wait a year for, you have the table.
Stand up for a year.
I've got some stumps they can have.
There you go. Gordon Avenue's requests for wire racks, bulletin board, bookends, and the reason this is on here is because of the number of them. They're just what you think they are, but they need a bunch. 1 book truck, 2 trash cans. Wire racks is the only one that right off the top of my head. Is it a display?
It's a stand-up books on.
Stand-up book display. Green does have a request for 2 rolling stools.
Just looked at that, I thought it was the 55 computers and everything. I'm going
Green,
like,
55.
I'm going like, there's no room for a 55 computer.
The Green Library is also seeking a made space station activity table that we're gonna ask the Friends for.
Okay, so that's part of that.
Yeah. So that'll come, the way that'll work,
43K, does that come out of that?
we're gonna ask the advisory committee for the Charlottesville Area Community Foundation, of which you are a member as the vice president of the board,
Right.
for a list of things. Once they give approval, we'll bring them back to the full board for the board to vote to accept a grant from the Friends of the Library Endowment. And we'll share it with the Friends Board as well. And then those will come around the same time. Trying to think, that also in that was a service desk for the children's area, those are very expensive. That's about a $12,000 expense. So rather than take it from the equipment budget, we'll use the Friends for that. I think they'll support that because of direct support for the children of the Central Library. Okay, IT. 55 computers, not for Green, for the regional libraries. Makes computers for staff and computers for the public. The driving force here, and Kayla is here to jump in when I say something wrong. The computers that are being bought here are, there's value going forward. They're microcomputers. They go on the back of a monitor and have a keyboard stand with them. And moving forward, the only part that needs to be replaced is the microcomputer. So the first time cost gets you the whole setup.
Yeah.
But in 5 years or whatever, we need to review that. We're only looking at one piece of the setup. We'll have to, obviously some will break over time and we'll need to replace them. But the main driving factor for the number here is the upcoming end of life of Windows 10. We use Windows operating systems and all of our staff and most of our staff in public computers. And we're going to be forced to upgrade to Windows 11. And some of the computers that we currently have don't have the specs to handle it. So,
Yep, we have, there are at least 30 that we cannot upgrade, and then this also helps us, because we have over 350 computers across the system. Getting at least 50, 55 would help us maintain other stuff, because not only does Windows 11, Windows 10 won't be serviced, and won't be supported as of October. That helps get through the year with any other things that sometimes the computers are just too old, even if they are on Windows 11.
I know this comes up periodically. The technology committee, Peter has talked about this in the past too, like what's our replacement cycle for these? And here's where we are for this year to prepare for that change. Okay, the next one, I will again attempt this and then Kayla will correct me. So E-rate is the federal program that help support schools and libraries to offer connectivity. And it pays for a large portion of our just straight internet lines. It's about 80% of that. JMRL pays for 20. There's also a feature where you can order some networking equipment and get that same discount. So JMRL would pay 20% of the costs and the federal government pays 80% of the costs. That is not an IMLS program. That's a separate program that the FCC manages, I think. So it has not been part of a discussion about loss of federal funding. We think it's prudent at this time to take advantage of that while it exists in order to replace some wireless access points, routers, and switches throughout the system. So all the wireless access points that are in this building, for instance, are 10 years old. They went in when moved into this building and they're going to need to be replaced in the years to come. While this funding is available, we'd like to replace things now that we know are coming up end of life. So this amount here reflects 20% of the overall cost of buying all that equipment. The federal government would pay the other 80%. It is not a commitment to buy. We had to go through a process in order to apply. We were granted the potential for funding here, but we can buy things as needed off of that list. We just want to make sure that there's enough funding here to support the potential list of everything we would need to replace that equipment.
So when it says one,
Yeah.
is that like one program?
It's the whole year's worth of equipment, but literally the number of things that are on the list would probably be closer to 50.
Yeah, because it's almost every indoor access point. It's at least 9 or 10 universal power supplies that go into the racks, them on for a little bit. It's firewalls at 2 or 3 branches, routers, switches. Yeah, so it's
It's like a system.
a system. Yeah,
That's a
so
good way to describe it.
the total like awarded quote was like $155,000 worth of things, and E-rate would pay $125,000 for that.
This one is JMRL's share of what all that costs. We can provide that. Would would you all like to see a list of equipment?
I mean, I don't disagree.
Some more paper, yeah.
Well, to Alita's point, it's not one thing. It's our networking infrastructure, basically.
That's a good deal, though.
It's a
Yeah.
great deal.
Right.
And it has supported all the libraries in the country for many, many years, and we hope that it continues for a very long time,
Oh, that's a good.
just in case. Strike while the iron is hot. Yeah. Then staff laptop replacements. Some of these are quasi-public, I believe, to support meeting room. So they're staff and that they're not out for the public to use, but they support meeting room AV systems. Anything else to comment on that?
At least 6 of those can't be upgraded to Windows 11, and the others are just to make sure. We've had an increase in staff who've requested having a laptop, kind of in addition to their desktop setup, and that especially our young adult service librarians who might be going out to school doing outreach things. And the E-rate, there are about 79 different items that just the report, things that we would be replacing.
The 179.
Yeah, about 80.
Next page there, 6 self-check computers, which need to be upgraded again for the Windows 11 upgrade. This is a good deal, though. We used to buy these as units that cost a lot, but now Kayla and our team are building these themselves, basically. It doesn't require very much special hardware, but it needs a touchscreen for people to interact with it.
And we bought 10 touchscreens this year, kind of in preparation for that move. So the plan is to, buy the remaining 6 touchscreen computer combos, and then as it gets closer to October, rolling them out and updating all the self-checks across.
He was asking for $5,000 for the stuff that is going to happen during the year. This could probably be a lot more than that.
Batteries.
Yeah. But this covers, right, this is a new HDMI cord, right? Things that need to be bought throughout the year. Receipt printers, despite my many years' effort to have everybody in the service area just get emails for their checkouts, there are many people people that prefer to have a paper receipt, and JMRL is still offering that, and so we still are buying receipt printers.
Those 16 are for the self-check, so it's kind of the intended that if the ones that are still working, we'll keep using, but to sort of help in case we have to replace.
Same for the barcode scanners and stands.
Yeah.
So those are part of a self-check project. The 2 printers requested here, that's Brother is the name of the maker of the current printers that we're using, so it's just 2 printers. 2 more branch cash registers are needed. Like also my attempts to not have any cash coming. Any questions? There's a lot of stuff there for IT, and that is a big out of this request, that's $130,000 of it. Louisa's asking for a sign stand as well.
I was gonna say Louisa and Green both asked for book locker add-ons as part of the CACF. Yeah, just if you're wondering why there was nothing else for Louisa, that was one of their big ticket items.
And that would be similar to the project that happened at Gordon Avenue last year where they added a new locker bank for capacity. Okay, Monticello Avenue here. So the board's gonna be talking quite a bit about Monticello Avenue over the next few months. There's a CE that's happening in May at the Central Library, and the policy committee is gonna be reviewing the Monticello Avenue policy. So these are the things that Fred needs in order to continue offering the services as they are. This might change over the next year as the board and staff take a look at what the needs are, but currently the server that's running avenue.org and the public accounts that we've been offering for 30 years is at end of life, needs to be replaced. That's the big ticket item there. They're also looking for some support for programming in the lab space, which you'll see a week from Monday. Board members will see. Lindsay, you're welcome to come as well, but the tour of Montav. So they're seeking a gaming laptop, a laptop for assistance with the avenue.org web development, locking bookshelves for supply storage, chairs, a laptop specified for the digitization work. It's very popular there. Table, desk, a book truck.
The laptop for web development, does that include the cost of software for it, or is that just a very high-end laptop?
I believe it's a very high-end laptop. Is there any specific software that was requested?
I'll take a look at that request. It was a different model than the one we normally buy for just, your average staff.
Similar to when Kayla started and came in and said, I have a Mac and I love Macs. I said over my dead body. But she has convinced me over the years that Sarah Elizabeth, our digital services coordinator, needs a Mac to be able to do her job well. And there are a few other places I'm guessing this is probably.
Couldn't tell.
Yeah.
So it's not whatever the Ultra 9 16 core 5.1 gigahertz processor with a very so both these and I think the games laptop have higher graphics cards, more memory, more storage.
So no specific software to Peter's question.
Not that's included on the link that I have for what was initially requested.
The specific idea of these laptops in Monticello Avenue is to give people access to high-end stuff, right?
Yeah. I mean, you'll see when we get there next week that
my Mac doesn't cost $3,500. But I understand that if you were gonna do development of multimedia kind of.
Yeah, and I think specifically this is for, we are currently serving as a host for 30 almost community websites there per the Monticello Avenue policy, and so this is to continue to support those. We're going to be talking a lot about this in the next few months. Personally, my feeling is that we are shifting away from that service. It's not the business that that the library needs to be in in the same way that it was in it 30 years ago. You know, so it might be that throughout the years.
You're old now, talk about hosting websites 30 years ago.
That's right, right? Monticello Avenue opened in like 95. So it is exactly 30 years ago. So what my preference would be for the board to approve these expenditures. So if we decide, oh, well, we're going to think about this for a year, or we're going to, we're not going to make a change, then we would be able to purchase them. But if the discussions lead to not changing them, this would be an instance where that money stays in the equipment budget.
And some of that software might be smaller subscriptions, like editors and an SSH client. There's but then everything else would be.
What does SSH stand for?
Oh, until you asked me, I would not have been able to,
Give her about 30 seconds.
Secure something, shell.
oh, secure shell, yeah.
Okay, so
Protocol, yeah.
that's a request that came directly from the department to support some of the current operations and also some ideas moving forward, like the gaming laptop would very much be for programming happening in that space. Same for the office chairs, that's it. Okay, Northside Library, 18 stacker chairs. Lindsay, my understanding is that that's to replace the chairs that are in the conference rooms, which are cloth. Disgusting is one way to put it. They are cloth backed and cloth bottomed, right? And they, after 10 years, they are
Smell. And I squeeze them, they still smell.
There's no worse.
A few other chairs needs. So the adult computer chairs. It took Kayla and Jerry had to explain this to me, but it's for the area where the adult computers. It's not a special computer chair, right? It's just for that area in the
We
branch.
have 30 public computers in the adult part of the library, and the chairs are wearing out. So we thought we'd replace a few every year. And some of them are not in good shape.
Information desk chairs are the staff chairs behind the reference desk here.
Not
10 years old. Round table with power and floor cushions. Presumably that's for this room for the programming room.
It's for, children's programs. Yeah. The round table is a replacement for one of the tables in the flex area.
And those are very popular and we love to be able to offer that to people.
That you can
walk
plug
right
your
in.
computer into the electricity.
Okay, Scottsville is seeking 2 laptops, 3 office chairs, 2 task chairs, and 2 magazine racks. I believe that we think those laptops will actually come in at more expensive than that, correct?
Right, these were ones that had touchscreens that our staff found on Best Buy, and we tend to order ours through Dell, and they have a 3-year warranty. So the average laptop is like $1,100 or $1,200 for what we've been getting with our state contract.
But I think we could cover those costs with the miscellaneous IT supplies. So I don't think the board has to make any action changes.
What are task chairs?
Chairs to perform tasks in.
Like these?
A chair.
More staff chairs more than public. That's my understanding.
Say it again.
Staff chairs versus like people behind a reference desk or a cert desk.
Yeah.
Versus public chairs.
Can you find the original request there? I will come back to
In
that.
fact, our lovely.
Chair with
Chair
wheels.
with wheels.
Okay.
Chair with wheels. Thank you. Oh, that's the end.
For a total of 250,000.
Yeah.
Oh, these were the tables to go in the new work areas. They've been trying to rearrange the Scottsville
Okay,
library.
right.
Yep.
Did you round up the 250,575 on the cover sheet?
Oh, yeah.
574.
There's cents involved in the.
Where'd that dollar go?
Somebody else will ask. Okay, so are there any questions about any particular items there, or anything that the committee would like to discuss? I guess at this point, the discussion would be, should we be asking the Friends to support this instead of the equipment budget? Or do we think that this is not a necessary purchase for the library system? Said, I don't see anything frivolous in here. They're all, some of them are wants, and some of them are needs. But there's nothing in here that won't help serve the library's mission.
What is your thinking around pros and cons of asking the Friends to fund things?
Yeah, I think that in general, we're not interested in the Friends funding ongoing operational expenses. That's not something that you can count on from year to year. Like, we've been so thankful and lucky for the Friends that we have and for the support that they provide. Generally, the Friends support programming. So when I mention these kind of project-based things, they're more program-oriented, like a makerspace area. So it's equipment to support the programming. The endowment specifically does have kind of a target number every year that they're trying to spend some money for. But it's not intended to replace operational support, jurisdictional support. It's meant to supplement. So it would be things that kind of fit in the ethos of to support offering library programming, or to support staff in their ability to offer library programming.
But you said you were going to ask them to do the book lockers for Green and
Yeah.
for Louise.
Also, special projects, innovation and special projects. So they paid for the original book lockers. We pay for the ongoing, and there is an annual cost that supports the vendor there that Jerry mentioned, that has come out of this budget. But the lockers themselves were paid for either by ARPA funding that we got from the state library or by the Friends of the library over the years. So I see it as an extension of that special project, but it is a finite thing. We're not gonna, we can't keep adding lockers forever.
I would imagine from the Friends perspective, there's an advantage to tangible things where you can sort of point to and say, hey, the Friends paid for this.
On right now.
People feeling they want to contribute.
And we have a former Friends board president here who can weigh in.
I mean, it seems to me the only thing that could possibly be carved out of this is the Monticello Avenue expenses. I don't know enough about what's happening there to know if that's appropriate.
I mean, these are definitely, for the most part, it depends on which ones we're talking about there, but they are to
Gaming laptop. Web
Sure.
development.
We did pull out from Monticello Avenue a maker table and a touchscreen sewing machine, both of which we're going to ask the Friends to pay for. So that was about $7,500 there. But certainly, yeah, the gaming laptop potentially. I mean, we have asked the Friends to buy things like a gaming console for a branch, to buy an Xbox or a PlayStation. So yeah, I think that it would be in line with the things that we have asked them to purchase.
I know the gaming laptop in particular is something, like right now, the computer they're using, they can't do the virtual reality programming if they want to because that computer's so out of date.
Yeah.
And so the gaming laptop is I think intended for programs, in particular.
That specifically, that one would make sense to me as something to remove from this and to ask the Friends for him. If that seems to, I see nodding heads.
Just another question about this. So say that say the library is at some point in the future is asking the jurisdictions for more funding for staff compensation to cover the fine and fees, what have you. And they do a critical review of what JMRL's been spending to kind of, are certain things more is there a benefit that I could sort of picture someone saying, hey, you spent $4,000 on a gaming laptop, like you're spending a lot of money, like, is that really necessary? Is it better from that perspective if it was paid for by the friends? Like,
I could see that. I think to me, it's more, right now, we can say honestly to our jurisdictional partners, for the most part, we're not asking you to pay for any library programming. Our friends are supporting that entirely. The only thing we're asking you to pay for there is the staff time and expertise to be there in the space.
Yeah.
You know, so it's kind of maybe two edges of the same coin there, to be able to say like, yeah, our friends pay for programming. That's not written in the regional agreement. That is just 50 years of successful friends support.
But I think since we have the friend support right now.
Yeah.
It's robust. That we should get some more support.
Well, and-
Yeah. Right,
So I think specifically what Ann is saying is the gaming laptop,
The laptop for web develop.
that one I think is more tied into, it's closer to an IT request than a programming request. And again, it's gonna be a discussion about whether, you know, what the needs are there moving forwards. But the digitization one, that's a programming thing where we're offering that service to folks to come in. It's very popular. What did I tell the feedback we got the other day where specifically it was somebody recording an audio cassette, they were digitizing it, and they gave feedback to the library about how their family was gonna be able to hear their grandmother's voice again, and it was just like incredibly powerful moment there that like this technology supports, so.
We should get the best we can.
Yeah, I mean, it's,
Be able to get a better model.
so. So the proposal would be then to move the gaming laptop and the laptop for digitization over to a friend's request.
and when we say a friend's request, is that coming from the money that the friends raise through the book sale, or is that coming from the endowment?
Correct. At this point, so we are approaching two budget cycles with the Friends. One is the annual support for programming, which largely comes, the big bulk of it is kind of discretionary funding for branches and then funding for regional programming. And that doesn't get to this level of detail, like buy me this thing. It's more the library would like X amount of dollars to support programming, and then the Friends, yay or nay, and we're still due in June. Things like this where we're talking about equipment to support projects, we would specifically ask the endowment fund to pay for. And right now, I think, what did I say? We were asking them for about $43,000 of equipment, so this would add, about 5,500 to that, and I still think we're in a reasonable range. The other things that we ask them to support annually are the Same Page program, which is the reading program in conjunction with the Festival of the Book, the scholarships for library staff that are seeking master's degrees in library science, the scholarships for the partnership scholarship with the NAACP, and the scholarships for the Scottsville residents that have an out-of-area fee there. So those are kind of ongoing. I mean, those are the every year things that they have been supporting. So this amount, I think, fits in line with kind of the what they're looking at.
They have to spend, the endowment has to spend a certain amount of at least.
It's recommended by the CACF, and I try to encourage the Friends to stick with that. Yeah.
Okay, so here we're talking about
Through the endowment fund. Yes.
with it through the endowment, which I think of as like partnership of the library and Friends, not really.
That's what it is.
It's not really asking the Friends.
It's asking this advisory committee, which is made up of the Friends president, vice president, JMRL president, vice president, and myself. They're very sympathetic to library.
Very sympathetic, yeah.
All right, I think that's a good suggestion, Ann. Any other similar thoughts?
We're going to be discussing the hosting of the 30 community websites
Yes.
after our meeting at Monticello, and
Yeah, you're gonna get a continuing education in which you'll get some background on that. And then the policy committee is gonna be discussing the policy itself. And And I think that will lead naturally to the full board having a discussion about what role we think JMRL should play, whether or not to continue this. It's been a very successful 30-year service. There are still organizations that use it and rely on it. So I think we want to be very mindful of that and decide to what level to support it moving forward.
Maybe I don't know who's reviews that, but some idea of plan B for those people that.
Yes. Yeah, we wouldn't want to pull the plug on somebody that's relying on this. Yeah. At this point, we're not getting many new requests for new organizations, and it's funded only by Charlottesville and Albemarle, so it's currently only nonprofit organizations in Charlottesville and Albemarle that qualify. But there are, we'll show you a list on the 19th, 18th, 19th, a week from Monday.
Fair to say that asking the board to kind of weigh in on that is kind of a sort of your discretion. Do you feel like it's important enough?
I think that's a good way to describe it. I think it has enough community impact that I wouldn't want to make a unilateral staff decision without board input. So that's kind of where we are now, although staff has been talking for a long time about whether or not this is a sustainable program.
Yeah, because there's a gray area, right, of like things that the board should get involved in, or
Right.
So this would be an example where you're sort of saying, I think this would be helpful.
Yes. Yeah, especially, and I think it's timely as this policy comes up, because the policy solely deals with that aspect of Monticello Avenue, and what you're going to see next week is that the work that they're doing has much more to do with the distant space and the maker space, and that this is an add-on that provides some value to some people, and not sure if it's worth the time and energy, basically. Just think there's alternatives. There are more alternatives now than there were 30 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
For sure. The only other thing I wanted to mention is that one thing, the board last meeting or the meeting before made funds available to replace one of the box trucks that go around the library system. And there's also going to be a need in the years to come to replace the library van that goes around. We did not include it in this request, and my recommendation at this point is that we revisit mid-year. We see where we are, like what decisions have been made about revenue coming in, how much things are actually costing, and then if needed, get the budget committee back together to discuss a recommendation for a van. Eventually, at some point, we're going to need to replace it. It's not it has to happen immediately, and well, knock on wood, it's not, it has to happen immediately. But my thinking is that right now we'll revisit this equipment budget mid-year, and see where we are. So just wanted to throw that out there so that mid-year, hopefully you'll remember that. Oh, yeah, talk about it. David talked about it.
And how much is the box?
Box truck we covered, so the board already made that motion to free up some money, and I think I can't remember exactly.
85,000.
85,000, the van would be less.
The operating.
It came from operating, yeah. The van will be less than that, but still, they're not cheap, and here's that parts are one of the things.
Yeah.
Brandy, did you have any questions there? It's the first time we've seen your face. We've been looking at the.
So to recap, from what I've been hearing, we're looking at allocating or requesting from the endowment the 2 computers for Monticello Avenue.
Yeah, correct. The gaming laptop and the Dell laptop for digitization.
And then everything else pretty much, I guess, we'd be making a recommendation to approve as is.
That would be my preference. Is that the consensus around the room? So what staff will do is basically remove those 2 items. So we'll have 2 less items under Monticello Avenue and a slightly lesser total by that amount that will go in the board's handouts. And then, Alita, when you're making the report to the board a week from Monday, the recommendation can just be that the Budget Finance Committee recommends that the board approve as presented, because those can keep going. And then if the board has questions at that point, we can address them. Otherwise, they can sleep on it and vote in June. And yes, lots of future discussion. It's good though, it's good to keep these things on the forefront about what that balance is gonna look like. That's all I think that staff has to talk about today. Shouldn't speak for everyone. Jerry, Lindsay,
Good.
lowest dreams,
Yeah.
a new bulb for this projector.
Yeah. Speaking of
I
program.
don't have to go into the endowment.
I'll have to
Yeah,
go.
oh my God. I probably need a whole new projector.
Yeah, it's possible.
Projector is 10 years old.
Okay, Alita, you wanna dabble us out?
I guess if there's no other comments, questions or anything,
Do you guys have to propose it to bring it to the board?
No, I think we have a consensus, basically. Since it's committee, generally, we don't have full votes in the committees, it's just a recommendation.
Okay.
And I didn't hear any major complaints, so. Okay.
we're done.
Thanks, Brandy.
You're welcome.
And